We'll wait for 2 minutes and then we'll start the session. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Before getting into the presentation, I'll just quickly touch upon the reason why we are doing this presentation and the importance of this, right? So, our session today is about a silent revolution, one that's reshaping how we power our homes, drive our cars, run our industries, and grow our food, right? It's called the energy transition. And for India, it's more than just about the environment. It's about economics, geopolitics, innovation, jobs, and self-reliance, right? By 2047, India aspires to become a Viksit Bharat, a developed, inclusive, and energy secure nation as we mark 100 years of independence, right? But to get there, how we generate and consume energy has to fundamentally change. This transition is not a choice anymore. It's a global wave. Just like the internet or mobile technology transformed our lives in the last 2 decades, energy transformation may redefine the next few decades of our lives, right? So in today's discussion, we'll try to explore how we move from our current fossil fuel based system to a clean, self-reliant, and a sustainable one, all while meeting our long-term goal of net zero by 2070. The government has already committed to 500 gigawatt of non-fossil capacity by 2030, and green hydrogen, smart grids, and energy storage are also becoming enablers of that shift, right? But more importantly, this isn't about technology or targets. It's about transformation, cleaner air, healthier citizens, millions of green jobs, a new wave of manufacturing, EVs, solar panels, wind turbines, and an economy no longer at the mercy of imported fuels, right? Just like China scales its solar capacity 100-fold in a decade, India too has the geography, talent, and the will to lead the global clean energy movement. So, with this background, I'll just begin. Yeah. So, first, let's understand why energy transition is not just an environmental need, but a matter of national security and economic stability. What you see on this slide is a snapshot of the global fossil fuel supply chain and where India stands in it. Credits to those who collated this slide. On the left, you will notice that the world's energy supply is still dominated by three fuels: oil, coal, and natural gas. These are carbon intensive, finite, and crucially unevenly distributed across the world, right? The next column shows where this energy is produced. A huge chunk comes from the US, Russia, and the Middle East. India doesn't feature significantly here. Then comes transportation. About 60% of global oil and gas moves through sea tankers and 40% through pipelines. This brings enormous geopolitical risk. A disruption in one maritime choke point, say the Strait of Hormuz or the Malacca Strait, can send global oil prices soaring. And we saw this recent move in the last week. Major players like Saudi Arabia, Iraq, UAE, and Iran are the one who exports this energy, right? And finally, on the right, we see who the major importers are. Look closely. India is the third largest energy importer after China and Japan. Today, India imports approximately 85% of its crude oil, 55% of its natural gas, and about 20% of its coal. Right? This creates three major problems: vulnerability to global price shocks, high foreign exchange outflow, and supply insecurity. That's why energy dependence is smart economics and good governance. And the only way to secure that independence is to invest in domestic, renewable, and clean energy systems like solar, wind, green hydrogen, and biofuels, and reduce our exposure to global fossil fuel markets. Next slide. So when we talk about Viksit Bharat 2047, we are really talking about a new kind of growth model, one that's not only focused on GDP, but also on building resilience and competitiveness through energy transformation. At the heart of this vision is industrial leadership. India isn't just aiming to consume clean technologies. We want to manufacture them, scale them, and export them to the world, right? For example, take green ammonia, for instance, right? India has already begun exporting to Japan and Singapore with massive projects coming up in Odisha and Andhra Pradesh. So this is not just about decarbonizing our own economy. It's about becoming a global supplier in the clean energy chain, right? And recently, the formation of Global Biofuels Alliance under India's G20 leadership is another key step towards that direction. It positions us not just as a participant, but as a rule setter in the globe clean energy conservation. But the real enabler here is infrastructure combined with digital innovation. So think about how UPI changed banking, right? That same kind of digital ease is now reaching the clean energy sector. Thanks to platforms like DBT, direct benefit transfer, subsidies for rooftop solar, and EVs can now be accessed easily, even in rural areas. So this combination of clean energy, strong logistics, and real-time digital governance gives us a scalable model for energy equity, right? Where no citizen, rural or urban, is left behind in this transition, right? And let's not forget, as demand rises, we need a grid and infrastructure backbone that is future ready, right? Not just bigger, but it also has to be smarter, more resilient, and digitally enabled, right? So I think that's the energy vision behind Viksit Bharat, one where technology, infrastructure, and sustainability all move together, right? And where India doesn't just meet its needs, but leads the world forward. So that's what the India's development 2047 vision is. So here we are looking at India's installed power capacity mix, right? As of 2023, India's total installed power capacity stands at about 452 gigawatts. The energy mix, I think, is still led by thermal power, contributing 55 to 56%, mainly through coal. But change is underway. Like renewables like solar and wind now make up to 32.4%, and hydropower adds another 11 to 12%. Right? Nuclear is still small at 1.5, but has a lot of strategic importance, right? So a key shift is happening at the ground level, with rooftop solar being promoted across homes and businesses to reduce load on the grid and bring power generation closer to the user. And this evolving mix shows that India is steadily moving towards a more resilient and sustainable power system. Yeah. So here we are seeing about the power sector, which is the largest contributor to India's CO2 emissions, primarily because of our reliance on coal-based electricity generation. According to the Central Electricity Authority, to meet the projected energy demand by 2047, India will need to scale up its installed power capacity to about 2,100 gigawatts, nearly 5 times the current capacity. And out of this future capacity, I think 65 to 70% must come from renewable sources like solar and wind, right? But this, but since these are variable by nature, we will also need strong support from energy storage systems, such as battery energy storage systems, BESS, and pumped hydro storage to ensure a stable and reliable power supply, right? So, however, transmission infrastructure remains a major bottleneck. Even if we generate clean power without proper investments in grid and storage infrastructure, the energy transition will stall. And I think that's why India is now investing heavily in green energy corridors to upgrade interstate transmission systems itself, right? So these corridors will enable rich states like Rajasthan and Gujarat to efficiently transmit clean energy across the country. So that's something very important we have to watch out for. Next will be on the transport sector, which emits close to 10% of India's total emissions. Obviously, EV sales are rising fast, right? With almost a 49-50% compounding, obviously backed by EV policies. People are buying into EV cars right now. But on the fuel side, ethanol blending is at 15% in 2024, aiming for 20% by end of 26. And sustainable aviation fuel kicks in from 2027. And CBG blending comes mandatory from FY25. So it's not just about car brands anymore. It's about the whole ecosystem, batteries, software, and charging networks. And I think that's exactly what India is trying to build right now. Obviously, industries like steel and cement are also a very large source of greenhouse gas emissions in India after the power sector. And they are particularly harder to decarbonize, right? And India's answer to this is green hydrogen, a clean fuel produced using renewable energy. So, under the green hydrogen mission, which is backed by an investment of almost, I think, 20,000 crore, India aims to produce 5 million tons of green hydrogen annually by 2030, right? And these green hydrogen can replace coal in steel production, enabling the shift to green steel, substitute natural gas in fertilizer manufacturing, and also support the growth export of a green ammonia to countries like Japan and Singapore and Germany, which we are already seeing, right? And this transition not only helps decarbonize India's industrial base, but also strengthens our global competitiveness in green fuel exports, positioning India as a future leader in clean energy solutions. So that's something very interesting that we have to watch out for. Now I'll just ask my colleague Senthil to come in and take us through solar and nuclear a little bit more in detail.
Yeah, thanks, Gaurav, for the introduction on how the energy transition is happening in India and globally. Uh, uh, so, yes. Uh, so just to conclude on the introduction part, as Gaurav explained, uh, as we go to the next stage in terms of economic power, I think the government has set a clear goal in terms of how the next goal should be attained in terms of energy consumption. So the current, if you see, the current total installed capacity of renewables in India is currently close to around 200 gigawatt, and the government wants to, for the next 5 years, they want to take it up to 500 gigawatt. And this incremental 500 gigawatt, the 300 gigawatt will be majorly from the solar. And also, so one more major development that has happened in the last 10 years has been that the focus on nuclear, especially if you see post-COVID, I think globally also, most of the developed countries have refocused on nuclear in terms of their energy needs. Considering that, for example, in Europe, they had a heavy reliance on gas from Russia, and post the recent geopolitical tensions and what, uh, even the European countries, they have realized that they need to be have energy independence, and even there, I think they want to focus more on renewables and nuclear, etc. So in that way, so clearly, if you see the energy market is more and more focusing on solar, followed by wind, and then nuclear. So in this way, we can clearly see that tremendous amount of capacity is being built up both by the public and private. So in that way, we will just see the subsequent sections where we will focus on both solar and the nuclear, followed by biogas. Yes. So particularly with respect to solar, right? So currently, if you see globally, China is number one in terms of solar power capacity. They are close to like 959, 900 kind of gigawatt of power capacity in China. And the second will be like US. US in utility scale, they are very much close to India. They are having it close to around 120, 130 gigawatt of capacity. And in India, if you see our solar current capacity is close to around 110, 115 gigawatt. But if you see next 5 years and 10 years, the incremental capacity is going to be very much like multipliers across the globe. Yeah. So yeah, you can clearly see that. Uh, yes. Yeah. So where we are now is that in 2025, if you see solar capacity is around 115 gigawatt, and we have wind of around 53 gigawatt. And subsequently, next 5 years, if you see, when the government wants to reach around 500 gigawatt of renewable capacity, solar is more than 60-70% of the incremental capacity will coming from solar. That is solar moving from 115 gigawatt of close to around 300 gigawatt. That's more than doubling in terms of capacity. Uh, but even it doesn't stop here. If you see that even post 2030, as Gaurav explained, like moving towards 2047, I think solar will see a multiplier in terms of capacity addition. So in that way, so as an investment house, we have to see where the incremental capacity, where the incremental new cash flows are getting in. It makes a tremendous opportunity to invest and utilize and study first to see how the sector is performing. Uh, so on that lines, go to the next slide. Uh, this is a complete solar PV module manufacturing supply chain. So if you see it, it's not a very high tech in terms of, because this has been in the works for the last few decades, and almost the entire technology has been commoditized now, especially from China. We see it just starts with sand as a starting raw material, and then by a couple of processes, we go to like ingots, and from there the wafers are just sliced off the versions of the ingots, and then in turn, it goes to cell and module. So currently, we see Indian players either who are listed majorly are into this cell and module. So they are not yet to be backward integrated in terms of module manufacturing. And you see here, so the second this line shows the uh, how much of investment is needed to put up a per gigawatt of hour of module capacity. Suppose you just need $30 million to put up your module capacity, and you need not put up a gigawatt of capacity also. You can put up your 500 megawatt of capacity also. So it's very modular in nature also. Uh, Similarly, if you see cell with a 80 million USD of capital, you can put up your 1 gigawatt of hour of cell manufacturing capacity. So this shows that there is no barriers of entry in terms of a player coming in and having 80 to $100 million. He can put up a 1 gigawatt of cell manufacturing capacity. With usually even now most of the equipments are imported from China across all the players. So even at the equipment side, there is not much amount of barriers of entry. And if you look at the lead time is also very less. So if your module 12 to 18 months, you can put up a unit. For example, cell, it will be like 2 years. Within 2 years, you can put up a cell manufacturing capacity. So on that lines, what we see is that both cell and module are like a commodity kind of business, even though there is a tremendous growth opportunity exists in domestic market. But unless a player goes and backward integrates, I think he might be prone to volatility in terms of pricing. As and when the supply catches up with demand, we expect a tremendous pressure on profitability. So we have gone and studied a couple of Chinese companies also. Uh, what is the end result was that even in China, those companies which are backward integrated was able to survive across cycles, because sometimes they may get a higher ROE from the ingots and polysilicon base, while they may get a lower ROE from the cell and module side. So they are able to maintain ROE at a steady state, balancing these two kinds of businesses. While companies which are heavily was focusing on just on the cell and module downstream in nature, they had a very volatile in terms of profitability and ROE, and we have seen most of the companies going insolvent also. So the main takeaway is that the technology is very much mature in terms of what they currently use. And another main point is that the technology itself is changing. So, uh, so if you put up a new capacity now with the technology that's in the widely used now, that changes over the next 5 years. So what technology we are using now in the cell or wafer is that that doesn't exist, didn't exist 5 years ago. 5 years ago, we had a different kind of solar cell technology. So technology is changing. Along with that, low entry of barriers and things like that. What we infer is that while the market can grow, but companies which are present has to backward integrate so that they will be a much better position in terms of ROE and returns from the investment. Next slide is on. So here, so it shows that the list of companies which are into solar PV module manufacturing, and here uh, what we saw in the last slide, right, in terms of their value chain, how they are building up their business. So if you see a couple of big companies like Reliance and Adani Enterprises, they have plans to completely backward integrate. So right from module, they want to go till the end of polysilicon, so that I think they will be very much in a very comfortable position in managing the volatility. Um, but even here, I think if you see here, in terms of backward integration, currently, if you have seen module capacity is commissioned is close to around 73, 75 gigawatt. But at the other end, cell commission is just 20 gigawatt. And as we go upstream, I think still we are in a very early and nascent stage in terms of backward integration. But over the next 5 years, as these plant capacities of large players come on stream, I think our domestic needs in terms of like 40 to 40 to 50 gigawatt of domestic consumption should be sufficient from the local manufacturer itself. So we will have a much better supply. So we'll have a surplus in terms of cell and module, but in terms of polishing of wafer, at least we will have a good uh, demand and supply matching them. And we have seen what's the opportunity size and how the companies should be analyzed from that point of view. And here on next couple of slides, we look at what are the couple of concerns with respect to solar. The basic and first concern is that unlike a coal or a nuclear power plant, the power generated from solar is very intermittent in nature because only during the afternoon hours, the solar panels they have the work at the highest point of efficiency and power generation, and it tapers down as we go into the evenings. Why this is important is that as the solar as a share of total power generator increases, so this intermittency in generation would impact the grid. So in that way, the existing grid infrastructure needs to be upgraded. So there is a lot of potential in terms of upgrading the transmission infrastructure, and we have to also link the entire grid between the states so that any disturbances between the grid should be balanced. So the main objective should be that as solar share increases, the stability of the grid should be has to be built strong so that we won't face any grid issues. So another, so as I said, the transmission capacity, even here, what we are seeing is that not only in India, so globally also we are seeing as renewables share increases, the existing grid infrastructure should be upgraded. And it's not, even in US last few years, we have seen that there already the existing grid infrastructure was very age old. So they not only need to upgrade to the renewables, they also build new grid infrastructure. So on that lines, uh, what we are seeing is that over the next decade, there will be a lot of both private and public investments on the transmission capacity being built up, both on the HVDC lines and things like that. And so one of the other opportunity areas in solar is that as the power generation is very intermittent in nature, we need to have energy storage systems being built so that the energy gets stored when it is generated, and then when the peak demand comes in the evenings, sometimes in the mornings, so that the energy storage system can supply during those peak energy demand times. So even here, the battery energy storage systems is very nascent in India. So we are seeing a couple of states tendering comes in. Uh, so mostly with LFP kind of battery chemistry. So here, even here, this looks very interesting from the growth perspective, but we have to see how the return metrics works out. So Just to conclude on solar, one important scheme that the government has launched last year in February 2024 was that this rooftop solar scheme. So here, the objective of the government is that they should create a capacity of 30 gigawatt of rooftop solar, mainly focusing on the homes. Government is giving a subsidy and they have allocated a total of 75,000 crores. And so this has a lot of benefits in terms of providing homes with 300 units per month of free electricity, and also this also removes some amount of pressure on the grid. So this is one important scheme that has been very much evolving, and we have seen Gujarat as of now is the number one in terms of adoption of rooftop solar. And another scheme which has been in the works for the last 4 5 years has been the smart meters installation. So this, along with rooftop solar, we are seeing changes at the consumer level. So that's broadly in terms of solar. We want to cover important thing. Moving to the next one will be nuclear. So till 4 5 years, if you see both in India and globally, people are very much on the solar and wind and things like that. So they didn't focus much on nuclear. Even some countries stopped nuclear, existing their nuclear power plants also. But now, two things, both geopolitically, they want to have their own energy independence, and followed by new technology in terms of small modular reactors. So this seeing a lot of adoption, and even India, the Indian government, so they have in the last budget also they have allocated close to 20,000 crores for the small modular reactors. So we will see what these reactors are and how the government is planning to install them. First, so we see current nuclear power generation capacity in India is close to around 8 to 9 gigawatt. But government wants to take this to like 100 gigawatt. So majorly, this will include around 50% contribution from the small modular reactors, and another 50 gigawatt from the conventional nuclear power plants. And I think this monsoon season, government will is expected to bring amendments in terms of promoting private companies to get into the nuclear power generation side. And so it's the government doesn't also wants indigenously developed reactors to be promoted while doing the small nuclear reactors. So current share is very much low, but they are expecting that they want to grow multifold by at least 10x of the current capacity. What is small modular reactor is that the conventional nuclear power plants are very large in size. So they require in terms of cost, in terms of time, in terms of land requirements, they are like large scale industrial projects. But this SMR is modular in nature. So these are like factory built, and this can be in 300 megawatt kind of modular kind of capacity. So this can be employed in the old coal power plants. Suppose if old coal power plant is being discommissioned, so the modular reactor can be commissioned in the same old coal plants. So there are a lot of advantages in terms of adopting this SMR into the nuclear power generation. So basically, the design is very standardized in nature. It reduces the cost, and because the components are very much same across the value chain, and like I mentioned, it can be set up. We can set up multiple SMRs in a region so that it optimizes the overall project cost. And another important thing could be the safety nature, because here you can see that there is a automatic shutdown in terms of when there is some fault in terms of. So the adoption globally has been very good, and we're expecting that the investments towards here will be very high, and there are a lot of uh, plays in terms of various companies supplying components towards this thing. Um, yes. So like I mentioned, the budget, last budget, we had like 20,000 crores of allotment towards promoting indigenously developed SMRs. And so a lot of tenderings and works have already started in terms of building up this SMRs pipeline. And we would also expect a lot of private sector participation in the coming future. Yes. So with that, I'll just pass it on to Gaurav to the last section in terms of biogas. Gaurav, you're mute.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Senthil. Thank you for taking us through the informative data on nuclear and solar. We can go to the next slide, yes. Yeah, so biofuels and biogas are the two powerful tools helping India cut down on fossil fuel use, right? Especially in transport and gas-based sectors. First, bioethanol, I think back in 2014, ethanol blending in petrol was 1.5%. And I think by 2024, we have reached 15%. And the goal is to go to 20% by 25-26 end, right? And this shift has had some big benefits. We have almost saved close to 99,000 crore in foreign exchange. We have avoided over 5 lakh metric tons of CO2 emissions, and we have replaced 173 lakh tons of crude oil. Right now, what's great is that this also helps farmers because since crops like sugarcane, maize, and rice straw, right, are now being turned into fuel, right? Then on the compressed biogas, it's made from cow dung, crop waste, and other organic materials, right? And after purification, this CBG can be used in CNG vehicles also. It can also be used in home cooking gas, that is PNG, and industries also, right? So India's SATAT scheme is promoting CBG plants across the country. And starting FY25 last year, blending CBG into city gas networks will also become or has already become mandatory as we speak, right? So biogas isn't just fuel; it's rural income, uh, clean air, and fertilizer. I think it's a win-win for the environment and the rural economy also. Right. Next slide. Right. So sustainable aviation fuel is nothing but a cleaner jet fuel, which is made from waste, like used cooking oil, crop residue, municipal waste, and even algae. Right. And from 2027, airlines must blend 1% of this SAF in international flights, and it has to rise to 2% by 2028. And there are many pilot projects under the RUCO initiative, which are already converting cooking oil and paddy waste into sustainable aviation fuel, right? Helping aviation also join the green transition while tackling waste at the same time, right? Now, next is India is maintaining a ETIM 2.0, right? It is India's real-time dashboard for the energy transition. Next slide. Yeah. So this is India's energy transition investment monitor, right? It tracks around 1,000 plus projects: solar, wind, hydro, green hydrogen, battery energy storage, and many nuclear projects also, right? From announcement to commissioning, right? So you can see their maps, location, status, and investment stage, right? So policymakers, investors, and developers, right, can align priorities and fast track approvals, right? So in short, this meter turns data into smarter, faster, and clean energy action oriented uh, uh, points, right? So very important, if someone is interested in seeing how the progress is happening, they should track this monitor. Yeah. So I think we are just about to end the session, right? So I want to leave you with one core message, right? India's transition is not just a climate strategy, right? It is our development strategy also, right? Every big national goal that is been set for 2047, from becoming a global manufacturing hub to improving rural livelihoods to ensuring cleaner air and more jobs, secured jobs, right? Depends on how we reimagine our energy systems. I think an inclusive and sustainable transition will uh, strengthen our energy independence. Obviously, it will reduce our reliance on imports. It will create new age industries in EVs, green hydrogen, solar manufacturing, and biofuels. Right? And we are already seeing many of them coming up in this value chain. Right? It will also improve the lives of everyday citizens, from farmers using solar pumps to households saving money through rooftop solar and smart meters, right? And it will also enhance public health by reducing pollution from fossil fuels, right? And position India as a global climate leader, right? Showing the world that growth and sustainability can go hand in hand, right? So what we are seeing now is we're witnessing now is a very historic moment or a transition, right? Much like the industrial revolution or the digital boom, right? But this time it's powered by clean energy, smart innovation, and some bold policies, right? And we are seeing the foundation is already being laid, right? There are so many schemes, ambitious schemes launched, right? Like PM Kusum, Surya Ghar, Gobardhan, and FAME 2 in the past, right? And the constant tracking is also happening through the monitor, which we just discussed about, right? We are enabling investments, awareness, and access, right? Right from remote villages to high tech cities, but the scale of what lies ahead, I think, is far greater, right? I think we need massive investments still, maybe in some trillions of dollars over the next 30, 40 years, right? Participation from every sector, whether it is power, transport, industry, uh, construction, agriculture, right? So we need participation from all these sectors, right? And most importantly, I think people, citizens like you and me, who are understanding the urgency and are willing to take ownership, right? So I think this Viksit Bharat 2047 cannot be achieved with our existing energy systems. And this energy transition is at the very cornerstone of that vision, right? It's not a challenge. I think it's a great opportunity to leap ahead. So let's walk this path together with confidence, commitment, and clarity, right? Because the choices we make today will shape the India we celebrate in 2047. So with that, I'll just like to end the session, and we'll be happy to take a few questions. But as always, we'll try to avoid any stock specific related questions in this public forum discussion. Thank you.
So first question is on the solar cells dumping from China from Anshik Manot. Uh, so I'll just take it. In terms of solar cells, if you see both on cells and modules, initially the government has restricted usage of cells or modules which are imported to be used in government projects. So they have brought up a separate list. So for any government projects, so the sourcing has to be domestically done. So in that way, I think India has safeguarded the domestic players as of now. So the first list was brought up, and even now they recently 6 months back they brought in the second list of domestic companies. Only from there the EPC companies has to shows the cells and modules. So currently in that way, as of now, the imports from China is being curtailed. That is not only from India, even US has moved heavily against imports from China and even Southeast Asian countries. So that's the major reason. If you see over the last 3 years, our exports to US in terms of solar module has jumped like almost 3 to 4x. Not it is almost close to 10x. So we are exporting a lot of solar modules from India to US because US has curtailed imports from China and Southeast Asian countries because they found that even Southeast Asian countries were indirectly, so China was indirectly exporting via the Southeast Asian countries like Thailand, Vietnam. So that created an opportunity for Indian domestic players to export to US. So currently we see uh, if not for this uh, trade barriers in terms of what governments in India, US has created, the solar module prices in US and India will be like 30-40% cheaper. So that's broadly to answer your question.
Sure. Thanks, Senthil. There's one more question on lithium batteries. I think I'll just answer that.
Yes,
So I think LFP batteries, right, I think are gaining significant attention in the overall energy transition journey, right? And especially with the rapid growth of electric vehicles that we have seen in the last few years, and renewable energy storage needs also, right? So I think though the LFP battery industry in India is still in its early stages and facing a lot of challenges, such as scaling production, technology development, and raw material sourcing. But I think with increasing investments, collaborations with global technology providers, and the growing demand from the EV and renewable sectors, right? I think LFP battery manufacturers are going to play a very vital role in India's net zero and energy security goals. It's just that we need to see how the Indian companies develop this technology and strategically partner, because that is important because it will help them reduce dependence on imports, especially from China, which is currently dominating the entire battery supply chain, right? So the focus on Atmanirbhar Bharat and boosting domestic manufacturing clearly aligns well with supporting these companies through PLI schemes and maybe through other policy measures, right? So we need to very closely watch how this whole thing plays out. Senthil, there's one question on BEES.
EVs.
It's BESS, I think battery energy storage.
Yes, yes. So
Yeah.
there is one more question also on EVs.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
this side is opposite views. So
Sure.
on EV adoption, so what we are seeing now is that three-wheelers, it has been like crossed 50-60%. So if you see, even on a monthly basis, we are seeing the electric three-wheelers, which are mostly e-rickshaws. That is selling almost equal to that of conventional CNG-powered auto rickshaws. So adoption in three-wheelers has been higher. But if you see in terms of passenger vehicles, it is close to like last year was like less than 2%. And in two-wheelers, majorly in scooters, so overall two-wheelers, it's close to around 5-6%. So that was the current EV share. But in commercial vehicles, it's still they are factoring in whether India could go the hydrogen ice in terms of moving from the fossil fuels towards renewables and or the sustainable fuel kind of for the commercial vehicles. So in that case, this is where the current stage, and obviously, as and when the globally also it's happening, it's not just with respect to India in terms of EVs, the use of fossil fuels and coal-based, but in terms of electricity generation, it will be higher because as we move towards EVs, obviously the need for uh, power generation and the requirement to power the EVs and will go up. So in that way, even if you see some of the OEMs currently, they hesitant to completely get into EVs because at the end of the day, EVs in current power generation scenario is going to be powered by coal-powered electricity. So that was also one of the limitations that the OEM cite when they don't want to get complete into EVs. So in that way, we have seen that Japanese OEMs, especially on the passenger vehicle side, they are looking to have a multi-fuel powertrain systems in terms of they want to focus on CNG, they want to focus on flex fuel in terms of bioethanol and things like that. And also they want to focus on EVs and hybrids. So it's not just on EVs. So that's broadly on the EV side. And
Sure.
coming to
I'll just take that one.
yes,
PESS, right?
yes,
So I think battery energy storage systems, right, are going to play a very important role in the entire energy transition strategy, right? As we are going to add more renewable energy like solar and wind to the grid, right? One big challenge that we see is their intermittency, right? So what does this mean? It means the sun is not always shining, right? And the wind is also not always blowing, right? And when you are generating energy through these two sources, you need some solution which helps you store this excess energy when generation is high and release it when demand peaks or renewables aren't available, right? And I think for India, which is aiming 500 gigawatt of renewable capacity by 2030 and ensuring energy security for Viksit Bharat 2047, I think this battery storage is going to be very essential. It's going to help balance between supply and demand, reduce the need for polluting backup power, and making our electricity grid more flexible and reliable, I think. And that's why the government is also very actively supporting BESS projects through policies, incentives, and many pilot programs are running right now. So I think this is not only going to support the integration of renewables, but it's also going to strengthen India's energy independence and resilience. I think we need to closely watch how the technology costs come down and how investments can scale up. So it's still a area where we have to very closely watch and build our thesis there. Senthil, if you would like to add something to that.
so that's broadly your answer. Yeah,
Okay,
that's fine.
fine, fine. I think there is one on solar PV cells from China.
Uh, uh, so to answer that question, if you see 3 4 years back, government brought in this uh, approved list of module manufacturers. So they call it as ALMM. So the AL1, which came in like 3 4 years back, uh, has list of module manufacturers which are approved by the government. So these module manufacturers only, the module from these manufacturers only will be approved for the government projects. So in that way, they restricted the module manufacturing to be module to be imported from China. So now, so I think last 6 months, like December, they have brought in updated the policy in terms of ALMM 2 policy. So where it states that the government wants to make cells also to be procured from the domestic manufacturers for the government project. So in that way, the government started with module, and now they are getting saying that even the cell has to be procured locally. So that way, I think they are expecting over the next 3 years at least, you will see even the cells being imported from China coming down drastically.
Correct. So there is one question on can you please provide some information about the recent oil reserve discovery by India and how it is expected to play a major role? So I think, yeah, everyone would have read about this new oil reserves, discovery of significant new oil reserves, right? Particularly in some of the areas in Gujarat and Rajasthan, right? And Andaman also. Right, but this is an important development, right? I think considering that we are currently importing about 85% of our crude oil needs, if this is actually going to materialize, I think will boost our domestic oil production, which is directly going to support India's energy security and will reduce our vulnerability to global oil price shocks. But I think we need to watch and see how it plays out. because it's still early. It can be a big step, but we need to very closely watch how this can be built upon. One question is, out of the segments we have discussed so far in the energy transition roadmap, which one do you believe offers the most potential for an individual business to develop high barriers to entry? So I think again, Senthil can add to this. I think we are many of this industries or businesses or sectors that are there within this energy transition phase. Many of them are there in their early stages in terms of technology and investments and everything. So we need to very closely watch uh, how many groups and industries and promoters are able to tap into that opportunity. Opportunity is huge. The entire theme itself is huge and can be a multi-decadal opportunity. You need to be patient in terms of which businesses you buy after properly understanding the management and future execution plan. So very difficult to narrow it down because the pie is very big and there will be opportunities across the value chain. Then there's a question on, do you think the world is moving towards renewable energy because of the environment issues, or to kill the oil mafia on dependency on a few countries? Uh, so I think, to be honest, the world's move towards renewable energy isn't driven just by one reason. I think it's a combination of several factors. I think first and foremost, I think the urgent need is to address the environmental issues, right? Climate change, rising pollution, and extreme weather events, right? Have made it clear that we can't keep relying on fossil fuels, right, forever. And renewable energy like solar, wind, and biofuels helps us cut carbon emissions and protect the planet for future generations. I think that's the most important and the only reason for us to move towards that transition, right? But obviously, there's also strong desire among many countries to reduce their dependency on oil and gas imports, which often come from just a handful of nations, right? And this dependency can make economies vulnerable to price shocks, right? Supply disruptions, what we saw very recently, right? Or even during geopolitical tensions, right? So by investing in renewals, countries like India can improve their energy security and independence, and also help in a cleaner world, right? So I think, in summary, I think shift to renewables is about protecting the environment, obviously, strengthening national security, and also giving economies more control over their energy future. So I think that's where we are looking to progress.
There is one question on listed beneficiaries of BES. So the battery storage
Yes.
thing. So if you see out of that entire cost of setting up a battery energy storage systems, 80%, more than 80% is towards batteries and associated components. So any companies which are in batteries and chemistries will be the major beneficiaries in terms of how these adoption scales up. So, and we have seen India with a government with a new, they have brought in a particular scheme just for the battery cells. So they got the advanced battery cell scheme to promote indigenous battery cell production. And we have seen three, four big companies which have applied and they are in process of manufacturing cell capacity locally. So that is in process. So that's where you have to see the companies which can benefit from this BES.
I think there's one question on methanol being mixed with petrol for flex fuels, right? Which is the most possible direction we are moving in, are leaning towards EV vehicles or flex fuels, which can be a long-term solution. So I think flex fuels is nothing but blending with petrol, right? And which is already happening uh, very rapidly. I think we have already moved from 1.5% ethanol blending in 2014 to 15% now in 10 years. And I think we are going to go to 20%. So this again helps reduce oil imports and lower emissions from existing vehicles, right? Which is very crucial since most of our vehicles today still run on petrol or diesel, I think. So I think, yes, it's a practical, immediate solution for decarbonizing the vehicles which are already on the road. And EV represent the ultimate, maybe long-term direction for cleaner transport. So we need to again see how countries want to move towards the net zero and energy independence goals. Next is, how are ESG funds in India different from other funds? SEBI has mandated the top 1,000 have to follow BRSR. So many equity funds are indirectly acting as ESG funds. We'll check on this BRSR code. Do you have any ideas, Senthil, on this?
No, I think you have to check on this.
Sure, we will check on this question and get back, Mr. Mani. Great, I think that's all in terms of questions. Thank you so much for attending the session on a Saturday morning. Very glad. And any questions, we'll be happy to answer offline also.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.